2 weeks until the first day of summer, I believe, but it might start early, Rob. Yeah, right. It's going to start feeling like it later this week, I think. Good morning to you. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Tuesday morning. I'm Rob Schmidt.
And I'm Jackie Ibanez. Thanks for starting your day with us here on Fox and Friends First. When we get right to a Fox News alert for you, plugging the leaks. An intelligence contractor is under arrest this morning, accused of leaking a top-secret report on Russian hacking efforts.
Just days before fired FBI Director James Comey is set to testify about the investigation. This all happens. Griff Jenkins live in Washington this morning with the very latest. Hey, Griff.
Good morning, Rob and Jackie. It's the first arrest that appears to be related to Russia's alleged meddling in last year's election. The Department of Justice announcing the arrest of an NSA contractor. Her name is Reality Lee Winner, 25 years old, from Augusta, Georgia, charged with removing and sharing classified materials with the media and leaking an NSA document that suggests Russia did try to hack our voting system just days before the election. The document was first published on the website The Intercept, and the Department of Justice and NSA are not commenting on it, but a U.S. government official did not dispute the document as authentic, according to our Catherine Herridge's reporting. House Oversight Chairman Jason Chaffetz last night outraged by this development.
I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter what administration. When you have classified information, you cannot put that out there just because you think it would be a good idea. I want people in handcuffs, and I want to see people behind bars.
Now, that same official also told Catherine Herridge that the new data does not change the intel community's conclusion from January that the Russian interference did not alter votes. So what we have is very interesting timing of an arrest of this contractor and, of course, that website producing this document. This all comes as the much anticipated public testimony of former FBI Director James Comey on Thursday. The White House says they're not going to stand in the way of that happening.
The president's power to assert executive privilege is very well established. However, in order to facilitate a swift and thorough examination of the facts sought by the Senate Intelligence Committee, President Trump will not assert executive privilege regarding James Comey's scheduled testimony.
And I would just finally add, perhaps on a lighter note, you opened the show with a good tune there all summer long, because we may be hearing about this story all summer long, guys.
Yes. I don't doubt it, Griff. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Griff.
All right, as the media anticipates bombshell revelations from Comey's testimony on Thursday, Fox News senior political analyst Brit Hume says, don't hold your breath.
Like so many hyped hearings ahead before it, it probably won't live up to its billing because there are a number of constraints on Comey and what he can say. Some of the information that he's dealing with in this case, or dealt with when he was running the investigation, is classified, so that can't be discussed. Some of it is now in the midst of being investigated by a special counsel who basically took his place, and that probably can't be discussed to any great extent. So finally we're left with what he can discuss, which may include, Brett, the conversation he had in the White House with President Trump, which the administration today allowed to go forward. And I would frankly be surprised if he said that what the president had said to him about the Flynn case and his suggestion that he let it go basically amounted to any kind of obstruction of justice.
The faces of terror. British police identifying two of the three killers behind the London attacks. As we learn, the carnage could have been much, much worse. Senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott is live in central London this morning. Greg, what's the latest there?
Jackie, it is a very nasty weather morning here in London as police continue their investigation into this very nasty terror attack. We have word that there have been raids today again away from this location, maybe some dead ends too. We also have word today that all 12 who had been detained in the last couple of days in raids have been released. But yes, we are finding out more about the attackers. The apparent ringleader, Karam Shahzad Butt, 27 years old, born in Pakistan, a British citizen. The second, Rashid Radwan, nationalities given as Libyan or Moroccan. There is a third yet to be identified, but was known to police. He was on a terror watch list, even appeared a year ago in a terrorism television documentary here. A lot of questions being asked about how he slipped through the net. All told, in this terrible attack, which included the van ramming into pedestrians here on the bridge where we are standing, and then the stabbing through the restaurant area nearby. 7 killed, 58 injured, many of them still hospitalized, some in critical condition. There are also missing, and we have yet to receive formal confirmation that an American was injured in this attack, hit in the crossfire of bullets flying between the police and the attackers as they brought all 3 of them down. One identified among the dead, Christine Archibald, 30-year-old Canadian. Again, though, the tales of horror, the stabbings that occurred near here, the tales of bravery still coming out as police try to get to the bottom of all this. Back to you, Jackie and Rob.
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Hey, Greg, thanks. All right, a war of words between President Trump and the mayor of London intensifying this morning. The fallout of this in the wake of this weekend's deadly terror attacks. And President Trump now doubling down, slamming the mayor's call for calm in his city as a pathetic excuse. Kelly Wright, live in D.C. this morning with our commander-in-chief's, also his renewed push for the travel pause, which he now has a new phrase for. Kelly.
Rob, good morning to you. The United Kingdom is still dealing with the terror attack, as we saw in our colleague Greg Palcott's report. And British Prime Minister Theresa May says she thinks it's wrong for President Trump to be criticizing London's mayor at this time. In fact, she says the mayor has been doing a good job. The president's latest tweet that London Mayor Sadiq Khan is giving a pathetic excuse to saying that people in London should not be alarmed when they see armed police officers on their streets is sparking a firestorm of criticism against him. The mayor saying President Trump took his words out of context, but a deputy assistant to the president says the media is too obsessed with the president's tweets.
There are 7 people dead in London. There are 48 people, half of them in the ICU in hospital, and we're talking about tweets.
This isn't some game. This isn't politics. This isn't some mind game. This is for real. This is a war. We're at war, and we have to face the enemy and realize we're at war.
In response to the weekend terror attack, the president is doubling down as well on his call for a travel ban on 6 Muslim countries. In a flurry of tweets on Monday, he bluntly called it a travel ban, contradicting what his aides have said before were not a ban.
Whether you call it a ban, whether you call it a restriction, he cares that we call it national security and that we take steps to protect the people of this country.
In a related matter, the Trump administration has launched a new rule that calls for a kind of extreme vetting, if you will, for visas. It demands 5 years worth of social media profiles and 15 years of background information or biographical checks on those applying for visas. It went into effect on May 25th. Rob?
Okay, Kelly, thanks so much.
Thanks, Kelly. Well, the Muslim community in London widely condemning the deadly attacks. More than 130 British imams are now refusing to bury the terrorists. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson applauding that decision during his visit to New Zealand.
And I was actually encouraged when I heard on the news this morning that a number of imams in London have condemned these attackers and said they will not perform prayer services over their funerals, which means they're condemning their souls. And that is what has to be done. Now, only the Muslim faith can handle this.
Secretary Tillerson is now heading to American Samoa before returning to the U.S. ISIS now taking credit for an Australian terror standoff that left 1 man dead and 3 police officers hurt. You can hear the shootout there. Police killing the 29-year-old Somali refugee in a shootout after they say he lured a woman to an apartment building where he held her hostage and then shot a man dead. The suspect, a known criminal on parole, had been acquitted of plotting a terror attack at a Sydney Army base back in 2010. Police believe that he acted alone.
President Trump vowing cheaper, faster, and safer air travel as part of a campaign promise to overhaul the nation's infrastructure.
The previous administration spent over $7 billion trying to upgrade the system and totally failed. Honestly, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. We're still stuck with an ancient, broken, antiquated, horrible system that doesn't work.
Well, the Trump administration's proposed plan separating air traffic control from the Federal Aviation Administration, instead turning over control of the nation's skies to private business. The FAA would still oversee safety, though. The proposal requires congressional approval. All right, just hours from now, Vice President Mike Pence will give the keynote speech at the 13th Annual National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. More than 1,000 people gathering at the event in D.C. to pray for the direction and leadership of the country.
All right, well, who doesn't love talking about the weather, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it's with our very own Janice Dean.
That's right, and when it's going to get warmer, we hope, right, Janice?
I got some good news for you, Rob. First of all, 2 weeks until spring, and then as we head into the weekend, maybe 90-degree heat. Can you believe that? Are you ready for that, Rob? Are you ready for that, Jackie? All right, we'll see what happens. But first of all, I mean, we're dealing with cooler temperatures, showery weather, but the pattern is about to change for the Northeast. I've got some good news, and this is going to be fabulous as we head into the weekend. All right, so for now, we're still dealing with this trough. We're still dealing with a lot of Gulf moisture across the Gulf Coast and the Southeast and the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, as well as the Great Lakes. But as I mentioned, this is really kind of the end of this yucky pattern that we have been in over the last couple of weeks. There's your future radar, so still some misty weather across the Northeast, still looking at the potential for showers and thunderstorms across the Southeast. But as we get into the weekend, a change is a-coming, Rob and Jackie, and I'm so happy to deliver some good news this morning.
We love having the good news. Thank you.
We love that. All right,
Good.
Janice, thanks so much. 10 minutes after the hour right now, a big win for our veterans. How the VA plans to revamp health care and give them the credit, the care, I should say, they deserve.
And remember when New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said this about honoring a terror leader in an upcoming parade? Listen.
I will be there to honor the Puerto Rican people. I intend on marching. It's as simple as that.
Well, there it is, how he's now completely reversing course.
That should be interesting. And spreading socialism apparently quite rewarding. Just ask Bernie Sanders. It's made him a millionaire. Stay tuned. Welcome back. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio changing his story. Even if the leader of a terror group was to be honored in a parade, he promised to march in the Puerto Rican Day Parade. But he's now insisting that he was simply being diplomatic at the time.
I will be there to honor the Puerto Rican people. I intend on marching. It's as simple as that. I made clear to them that I was uncomfortable with the situation. But if it wasn't resolved, I wasn't going to be comfortable being a part of it.
So he was going to march with this man initially, Oscar Lopez Rivera, recently released from 35 years in prison. Rivera actually declined the honor, which had sparked nationwide outrage. Rivera was the leader of a terrorist group called FALN, who claimed responsibility for more than 100 deadly bombings across the country, including one in Lower Manhattan that killed 4 innocent people. Jackie.
Thanks, Rob. President Trump says he pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord for the good of Americans. But California Governor Jerry Brown now making a very bold statement, saying it's not only a temporary setback in the fight against global warming.
Disaster still looms, and we've got to make the turn. So I wouldn't count anybody out.
Okay, so while there seems to be an absence of leadership on this front at this moment, out of D.C., do you think that
it's only temporary?
It's only temporary.
Brown talking to reporters at a clean energy conference in Beijing. President Trump's decision has drawn heavy criticism within the U.S. and around the globe.
All right, a Fox Business alert. The Trump administration cracking down on self-driving cars, announcing plans to overhaul guidelines despite pushback from car makers.
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, here with what this all means for you. Hey, good morning, Tracy.
Good morning. Now, this is some good news for automakers testing out those self-driving cars. The U.S. Transportation Department said on Monday President Trump will unveil revised self-driving guidelines within the next few months. This in response to automakers' calls for regulations that'll eliminate barriers and finally allow these self-driving vehicles to get on the road. For General Motors, Uber, Tesla, Waymo, a division of Google's parent company Alphabet, all aggressively working on these self-driving technologies. I don't know if I would go for them.
I don't think I would. Would you do it? You're a car guy, aren't you?
I've been in the self-driving car. It's It's pretty wild.
Pretty scary.
It's interesting, that's for sure. All right, a recall for Harley, huh?
Yeah, now some bad news for bikers. Harley-Davidson is voluntarily recalling about 57,000 motorcycles because of an oil line that could come loose and spray oil onto the path of the rear tire. Turns out a clamp on an engine oil cooler line may have been incorrectly installed. Harley said it had 9 reports of oil lines coming off bikes, causing 2 crashes and 1 injury. This is going to hurt an already hurting company. Harley-Davidson reported a 14% decline in revenue in the first quarter as retail sales fell in the U.S. and overseas. If you have a Harley, you're going to want to check the website to see if your bike is included in that recall.
You don't have a Harley, do you? You a bike guy?
No, I'm not that guy.
All right.
I like him.
Yeah, I like him too. Tracy, now there's big news coming from Apple about speaker, right?
Yeah, you know, you've got your iPhone, iPad, iPod, MacBook, and soon the HomePod. Apple is taking on Amazon and Google with its very own smart speaker. The $349 device is being marketed as a smart speaker with higher quality audio than its competitors. Apple also announced an updated iMac Pro desktop, iOS 11, which comes with improved Siri, automatic do not disturb driving mode, and iMessage features that allow you to pay and receive payments from your contacts. The announcements unveiled during the Worldwide Developers Conference. Now, Apple really trying to own all of your devices.
Boy,
Own
they
your
own
whole
the world. I
Huge
know,
company.
right?
All right, Tracy, thanks so much.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.
The time is now 19 after the hour. The Pentagon now deploying all-out annihilation tactics in the war on terror. So if diplomacy isn't the answer, what should the U.S. strategy look like? A retired admiral joins us next.
And if you're afraid of heights, you might want to look away right now. A brand new, breathtaking view of Paris now being offered at the Eiffel Tower. We're going to show you what this looks like coming up next. This is going to be cool.
Pass on that. Good morning. It's now 22 minutes after the hour. 2 states now considering new laws that would do away with concealed carry permits. In North Carolina, lawmakers will vote this week on whether or not to allow adults 18 and older to carry guns. Right now, they have to be 21. A similar proposal to abolish permits is also under consideration in Michigan. Both states already allow open carry. And a Marine loses her fight for faith in the Supreme Court. The justices rejecting Manitha Sterling's appeal after she was court-martialed for posting a Bible verse at her desk. It says, quote, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper." Her superiors at Camp Lejeune ordered her to remove it several times, but she refused to do so, saying it violated her religious freedom. Sterling was later discharged and reduced in rank. Lawyers say the decision sets a very dangerous precedent for future cases. Rob?
All right, the Pentagon now in annihilation mode, working on a ramped-up strategy to wipe ISIS right off the map. So what should that strategy look like? Here to answer that is former Supreme Allied Commander for NATO and author of a new book we're going to talk about as well, Sea Power, retired Admiral James Stavridis. James, thanks so much for coming on. Admiral, I should say. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I guess what we learned from Mad Dog Mattis in that press conference a while ago was that they're going to be more aggressive here, that we have to go after these guys and, as you say, bring the fight to them instead of sitting back. Tell me about that.
Well, first of all, we want to get away from just playing defense. I think we're doing too much of that. We're going to have to take the fight out to them, and I think Secretary Mattis is just the right guy to do that. I'll give you 3 things he ought to think about hard. One is increasing the lethality of what we're doing in Iraq and Syria. That means probably a few more thousand troops on the ground, maybe going from 8,000 to 11,000. Number 2, get our allies in the fight, get NATO into this fight. They have huge capacity. Number 3, go after cyber. Cut off their financing, go after the social networks. If we do those 3 things, I think we can move toward annihilation as opposed to containment.
Right, and what a change we've seen from the previous administration. And I want to say one thing, because the president doesn't get a lot of credit for much from the media. But do you remember during the campaign he said, "We've got a plan, we're not going to share it with you," and the media just assumed he had no plan?
Right.
he certainly seems to have a plan. And I mean, they're certainly implementing it. This is something they're really getting done.
I think so. And let's go back to General Mattis. Here's someone who is intimately familiar with the machinery of the Pentagon, how to really use it. He's a retired 4-star Marine, spent a lot of time in Afghanistan and Iraq. He's the right individual to do this.
Okay, let's bring up this full screen. A strategy here: conquer Mosul and Raqqa, cut off the financing, battle ISIS on social networks. We understand how to battle them on the social network, what needs to be done there. My question is, we've known that they've been using oil to finance themselves for quite a while now. Why can't we cut that off? What is the difficulty there?
We are cutting a great deal of it off, and we're seeing more of their financing, Rob, coming from the cyber world. So we need to continue on the oil piece, and the challenge is the confusion between Turkey and the Kurds north, because that's the flow for that oil. So we kind of got to get the Turks on game with us.
The Turks consider the Kurds terrorists, don't they?
They do, absolutely, and that's a challenge.
We do not feel that way at all. I mean, those are our friends.
Exactly. So we can square that circle, but it's going to require spending time in the region. Secretary Mattis going over there, working with the Turks. If we do that, we can cut off the oil effectively as well. That needs to be part of our strategy.
Absolutely. And Admiral, you've written a new book. I want to give you a second to just tell us about it here and give us kind of the back flap kind of wrap up of it.
It's a global book about the oceans, Rob, but what it really focuses on is the geopolitics. If you look around the world, we're fighting in the Eastern Mediterranean, U.S. and Russia over Syria, in the South China Sea with China and the United States, in the Arctic with Russia. We've got a lot moving on the oceans of the world. We need to pay more attention to them. The book looks at the history of the oceans, but really it's about how to leverage the oceans today as we create the right place for America.
It's important stuff, and nobody would know better than you.
Thank you, Rob.
Admiral, thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Great being
with you.
Thanks.
All right, Jackie, over to you.
Rob, well, it's now 26 after the hour. An Oklahoma man shooting his neighbor dead after he found him trying to drown his newborn twins. So was the shooting justified? We're taking a closer look on the case.
It's our country. Support our country, support our troops. They go out and they fight for our country and they defend us. So why wouldn't we want to fly an American flag to support them?
Good point. Flag Fury, Meet the Patriot, under fire for hanging an American flag on Memorial Day of all days. Next. A lot of people in this building running on sunshine and a lot of coffee this morning.
If we were running on sunshine, we wouldn't be running right now because there's none of it out there.
Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First. On this Tuesday, I'm Jackie Ibanez.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. 31 minutes after the hour, and a Fox News alert. Plugging the leak. An intelligence contractor under arrest, accused of leaking a top-secret report on Russian hacking efforts.
And just days before, fired FBI Director James Comey is set to testify about the investigation. Griff Jenkins is live from Washington, D.C. with the very latest. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Jackie and Rob. It's the first arrest we know of that appears to be related to Russia's alleged meddling in our election. Her name is Reality Lee Winner, a 25-year-old NSA contractor from Augusta, Georgia, charged with removing and sharing classified materials with the media. The new leak, a classified document that suggests Russia did in fact try to hack our voting system just days before the election. The document was first published Monday on the website The Intercept, and the DOJ and NSA are not commenting on it, but a U.S. government official did not dispute the document as authentic, according to our Catherine Herridge. House Oversight Chairman Jason Chaffetz, when he learned about this, talking to Martha last night, was outraged.
I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat, doesn't matter what administration. When you have classified information, you cannot put that out there just because you think it would be a good idea. I want people in handcuffs, and I want to see people behind bars.
That same official also told Fox News that this information does not change the intelligence community's conclusion that Russian interference did not alter votes. This all comes as former FBI Director James Comey is set to testify Thursday, with the White House now not standing in the way. But Chaffetz worries it may lack substance.
I worry that what he's going to say is he's going to go back to the tried and true, well, there's classified material and I'm going to have to talk to you about, not in this setting. That's the worry.
So then why do a public testimony?
Well, I'd love to hear his story, but you've also got to see the documents.
We may learn more about this particular document later today, and of course, it raises questions about the continued leaks in the intelligence community. A side note, Julian Assange is already tweeting support for this woman, Miss Winter. Guys?
And that young woman, if I'm not wrong, faces up to 10 years in prison for this?
That's correct. Yeah. That's absolutely correct. And there's going to be a whole lot more talk about that.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, Griff, thanks so much.
Thanks, Griff.
All right, to another alert now. British police launching new raids overnight as we learn the names of 2 of the 3 London terrorists. One of them, Karam Butt, was investigated by police in 2015, but they couldn't find evidence of any terror plot. He was also in a documentary that was made about jihadis living in Britain just last year. We've also learned the carnage could have been quite a bit worse. British police discovering suspected Molotov cocktails in the back of that van that went on the rampage. 7 people killed, 48 injured in the attack, and 18 people remain in the hospital in critical condition.
So unnecessary. Thanks, Rob. A war of words between President Trump and the mayor of London intensifying this morning. The fallout in the wake of this weekend's deadly terror attacks there in London. President Trump now doubling down, slamming the mayor's call for a claim as a pathetic excuse. Kelly Wright live in D.C. with our commander-in-chief's renewed push for a travel pause. Hey, Kelly.
Jackie, good morning to you. Some critics have said the president should put the Twitter down. In response to the London terror attack, President Trump says the United States fully supports the United Kingdom, but his tweets about London's mayor and a travel ban are raising eyebrows and sparking some criticism. The president's latest tweet that London Mayor Sadiq Khan is giving a pathetic excuse to saying that people in London should not be alarmed when they see armed police officers on their streets is sparking a firestorm of criticism. The mayor saying President Trump took his words out of context. Also, in response to the terror attack, President Trump went against the political correctness of his aides in his demand for a travel ban. The president in one tweet saying this. He said, that's right, we need a travel ban for certain dangerous countries, not some politically correct term that won't help us protect our people. While the president is being criticized for bluntly saying travel ban, Congressman Peter King sees the need for a policy that will help protect the American people from terror attacks similar to London.
I think this shows the need to have increased and intense surveillance, that the police themselves can't be following everyone all the time. That's why we need undercovers. That's why we need informers. That's why we need people working in the communities. That's why we have to monitor the mosques and other areas where radicals congregate. And we have to realize this is reality.
One of the president's top concerns has been extreme vetting. On that matter, the Trump administration has implemented a new rule that demands 5 years worth of social media profiles and 15 years of background or biographical information on those applying for those visas. Jackie?
All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Kelly, thanks. All right. The Senate now calling on President Trump to fulfill a campaign promise, unanimously passing a measure urging the president to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. The vote happening on the 50th anniversary of Jerusalem's reunification. Last week, the president signed a waiver that keeps the embassy in Tel Aviv for now. The White House says that maximizes the chance of negotiating a potential peace deal between Israel and Palestine, not stirring the pot.
The Arizona governor declaring a state of emergency as pill and heroin overdoses spike. Republican Doug Ducey says there's been a 74% increase in opioid death in Arizona over the past 4 years, soaring from 454 in 2013 to 790 in 2016, just in 3 years there. The declaration gives the state the right to accelerate efforts to distribute life-saving drugs, track overdoses, and coordinate public health efforts between private and public sectors.
Hillary Clinton under investigation once again. The Senate Judiciary Committee launching a probe into her actions as Secretary of State. The Daily Caller reporting that Clinton pressured government officials in Bangladesh to drop a corruption investigation into Muhammad Yunus, a businessman and Clinton Foundation donor. The Prime Minister telling Circa News Clinton threatened her over the phone.
Now, Bernie Sanders, the senator from Vermont, who is known for attacking the wealthy, racked in more than, get this, $1 million last year.
Must be nice. The former Democratic presidential candidate crisscrossed the country selling socialism to college students, but is now part of the 1%, easily in the 1%, thanks to a hefty advance from his book, Our Revolution.
Sanders now owns 3 homes. His latest purchase, a $600,000 lakefront home in Vermont. That would be nice.
I wonder if he's going to send 80% of his income to the federal government. I guess we'll wait and see, huh? All right, 5:38. The NSA contractor who released top secret information to the media may have had it out for President Trump since day one, what her social media footprint has revealed.
And an Oklahoma man shooting his neighbor dead after he found him trying to drown his own newborn twins. So was the shooting justified? We take a closer look at the case next.
And not loving it. The ridiculous reason this woman hopped the counter at McDonald's and attacked a worker.
Wow.
Stay tuned.
Maybe she can get a burger.
Jeez. Major changes coming to the VA. Secretary David Shulkin announcing it'll adopt the same electronic health record system that the Pentagon uses. This move aims to improve coverage for our veterans and better serve their medical needs after they leave the military. President Trump praising this decision.
This is one of the biggest wins for our veterans in decades, and I congratulate Secretary Shulkin for making this very, very important decision.
Secretary Shulkin says the VA will spend the next 3 to 6 months developing a plan to implement this new and much-needed system. All right, all she wanted to do was honor her country, but one woman's apartment complex shamed her for hanging an American flag. Carrie White says she received this note from the Missouri Management Company saying storage is not allowed on decks, where she hung her flag for Memorial Day.
It's our country. Support our country, support our troops. They go out and they fight for our country and they defend us. So why wouldn't we want to fly an American flag to support them?
Makes sense. According to local reports, apartment management now says it was just a misunderstanding, and they've talked to White about how to display her flag properly, but we haven't been told exactly what that means. Jackie.
Thanks, Rob. A shocking case out of Oklahoma to tell you about this morning. A man shot dead by his neighbor as he tried to drown his own 3-month-old twins in the bathtub. The neighbor who shot him is being hailed a hero, but the district attorney is considering charges. So was the shooting justified? Joining us to weigh in is attorney Jesse Weber. Thank you so much. What a disturbing story. So there was a 12-year-old at the house. She was alerted there was a problem. She ran over to the neighbor. This guy grabbed a gun, came over, and shot the dad twice in the back. The dad's dead. Does he have a case?
Let's talk about the most crazy case I've heard in quite some time. So yes, under Oklahoma law, justifiable homicide is when one person kills another because they reasonably believe that that level of force was necessary to prevent that person from killing or seriously injuring another person. And here, that's very fact intensive. And here, if you look at the facts as we know them and you take them as true, this appears to be a justifiable homicide. Freeman, Cash Freeman, who's the hero in this case, ran over to that house and he just saw the most disturbing image. 2 infants being drowned in a bathtub. Who knows how much longer they had to live. The mother was being held at knife point. He had to make a split-second decision to save their lives and use deadly force to meet deadly force.
I found it really interesting that he brought over the gun. I think that's probably the biggest issue that he has to deal with is that he had a gun, right?
Well, here's the thing. I would imagine the 12-year-old who ran over, who I believe might be the mother's niece, said that, told him what the situation was. He prepared himself. Now, the question is, was he justified in actually killing Foster? Many people are saying that he probably could have threatened him with the gun, told him to stop. But when you're in that situation and you have a split second to make that decision, who knows what you should have done? And in the end, 3 people were saved. This could have been a quadruple homicide, and he could have created an even worse situation if he didn't make that decision.
So disturbing. So what kind of charges could he face this morning?
It's tough for me to even say, but yes, if the district attorney decides to bring charges, anything from first-degree murder, maybe it was premeditated, he knew he was going to kill this man, could be voluntary manslaughter, heat of passion when he saw saw the situation. It could be second-degree murder, but I'd like to say one thing. The district attorney has to preserve the interest of justice, but they're also political, and they're not going to bring a case unless they think they're going to win it. And I think it's going to be hard to find a jury that would side with the father who was drowning his 2 children and not see this as justifiable homicide.
Well, we should say with the father that was drowning these children, he has a history. Back
Yes.
in 2011, he was arrested for domestic assault and arson. I mean, this is a guy that is known to police, and I don't know, maybe he was even known to the neighbor. Maybe that's why he grabbed a gun. I don't know, but it's so upsetting and frustrating.
It's a terrible situation. When these 2 little children grow up, they're not going to believe the story that happened to them and Cash Freeman, who saved their life. And you know what? In the end, I'm happy that the mother, the children are safe, and it's not a great situation any way you put it, but it could have been much, much worse.
And thank goodness there was that neighbor. What could have the mother done and been justified?
Well, actually,
saving herself.
So in Oklahoma, it's actually a castle doctrine and stand your ground state, which basically gives people the right to use deadly force in defensive situations, particularly in your home. And this gentleman ran into that house and disturbed their peace. So she would have been actually justified in killing him herself, but she was put in a situation where she couldn't do anything.
And we should say that those 3-month-old babies, they went to the hospital. They're home this morning. They're doing better. The mom, everyone involved in terms of the victims are good this
Yes.
morning. And that's a nice outcome, but fortunately, those are scars that you can't take away.
Unfortunately, you're right.
All right, Jesse Weber, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. And don't go away. We have more Fox and Friends First coming up right after the break. Don't go away.
Go on and try to tear me down. I will be rising from the ground like a skyscraper. Like a skyscraper. As the smoke.
Such a great song and a beautiful song to go along with this foggy view of New York City and all the skyscrapers, huh?
That's right. You can't even see the top of the Empire State Building there, yeah.
All right, well, it's now 50 minutes to the top of the hour. 25-year-old woman who stole top-secret documents from the NSA. You see there, she appears to have had it out for President Trump since day one.
Hey, Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115, here with a very telling story that came from her social media footprint.
Pretty interesting information here. Her name is Reality Lee Winner, 25 years old, with a top security clearance. Now, she's being accused of mailing classified information to a media outlet regarding Russia's attempt to hack the U.S. election. And now we're learning more about her personal beliefs based on her past social media posts. Now, it appears she created a Twitter handle using the name Sarah Winners, like you see here, to talk about politics and essentially bash the president. Let's dive into some of these tweets here. On March 6th, she tweeted, "What happened to the February 28th call for Trump to resign?" And then in January of 26th, actually, she tweeted, "Not my wall," that hashtag. And then right after the election on November 29th, she tweeted, "Not my president," hashtag recount 2016. Now, in other social media posts, she used profane language against the president and also talked about her concerns for climate change. And her mom told multiple media outlets that her daughter isn't that political. But according to these social media posts, she had some pretty strong opinions.
You know how they say, like, parents don't know everything about their children? Maybe she just doesn't know.
That could be it, Jackie. As a good mother, you know.
Mom's parents don't know a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff, yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Pelosi says children know more about global warming than President Trump.
There you go. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi. She was on The View yesterday, and then take a listen to what she said about the Trump administration's understanding of climate change.
Seriously, this is a children's issue.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
It's a children's issue. And I think children know more about this subject than some of the people advising the president.
Well, she also called climate change her flagship issue, leading some critics to kind of hammer her on her lifestyle. Let's look at some of these tweets here. Guardian says Pelosi lecturing us about global warming while her 2 mansions burn more fuel and create more gas than the average American. And then this tweet also coming in on the subject. Nancy Pelosi heats up the earth on her own just by opening her mouth. Now that's global warming. That's mean. And then Thomas also tweeted about the subject saying, saying Nancy Pelosi was sworn in 2000. Global warming was her flagship issue. She hasn't had to change her thermostat once since then. So some harsh criticism for the Congresswoman there.
Yeah, and she also rolls in 5 Suburbans everywhere she goes.
And
so that burns a lot of gas.
A lot of flying.
Twitter.
I know, right?
We get the greatest comments.
I know. Yeah. What do people do with their time? Or then?
We probably used it better. All right, let's go over. You don't expect to see a country music star perform in a hockey game.
Well, because the Nashville Predators, though, man, you knew this was going to happen. Dierks Bentley, he's a season ticket holder, actually. He performed the national anthem before the puck dropped on Game 4. Take a listen.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars.
There you go. So a lot of people tweeting about this topic as well. Noah says when Dierks Bentley sings the national anthem, you know Nashville is already winning. And Rob also chimed in with a tweet saying a brief Dierks Bentley concert followed by a high-stakes hockey. Game 4 sounds like a great time. The Nashville Predators, too, by the way, we all know they won last night.
Yes, we do.
So a big day for Nashville.
Dierks is such a stud.
He is one of my favorite performers. Drunk on a Plane is one of my favorite songs. What's better than that?
I mean it.
What's better than being drunk on a plane?
Yeah, Rob, we'll play
Going
it for you
somewhere
with a
warm.
break.
Yeah. All right, Carly, thanks so much. All right, 54 minutes.
As if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced.
The thieves who robbed a rare collection and sold it to states far, far away.
And are you afraid of heights, Rob? Well, if you are,
no.
Look away now, but you're not, so keep watching. The brand new breathtaking view of Paris now being offered at the Eiffel Tower.
That looks awesome.
Pretty intense.
Oh, yeah.